Hi, new normal and hello freshman students from the BSEMT. Welcome back to our YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to discuss about gene therapy. So sit back, listen, and enjoy learning. And these are the learning outcomes for today's discussion. At the end of the lesson, the student should be able to first, describe gene therapy and its various forms, and lastly, assess the issue's potential, benefits, and detriments to global health. Now, let us fasten their seatbelt as we discuss the gene therapy and its various forms.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Let us begin by understanding about gene therapy. Gene therapy is a technique that utilizes genes to treat or prevent disease. Gene therapy involves inserting genes into a person's cell for the purpose of providing treatment for a certain ailment. Generally, a healthy and normal gene is implanted into the cell or tissue to substitute an abnormal gene, and which causes disease. There are also techniques in order to deliver the genes, or the gene, which may be difficult and requires some vector, like to carry the normal gene into the cell. But with future endeavors along this field, such techniques may be used by doctors as an alternative by using drugs or surgery. Now, let's proceed to the approaches in gene therapy. The following are some of the approaches in gene therapy. First, an altered gene that cause disease is replaced with a healthy copy of the gene. Second, a mutated gene that functions improperly is inactivated or knocked out. Third, a new gene is introduced into the body to help fight a disease. Now, let's discuss about gene therapy and stem cells. Stem cells hold great potential in gene therapy. One of the best characteristics of stem cell is that they have the capacity to self-renew. Particularly, hematopoietic stem cells are a best choice because they can easily be obtained from the blood, bone marrow, or umbilical cord. Stem cells are cells of variable potency that has the capacity to self-renew, or we call it stemness. Stem cells are unique compared to other cells of the body because they can both self-renew or make copies of themselves, and differentiate to other types of cells, which is specialized cells of the body. Once a cell becomes specialized or differentiated, it plays vital role in the body such as blood cells, nerve cells, and muscle cells. This makes stem cells very important since body needs stem cells to replace specialized cells that are damaged or get used up and even die. Self-renewal and differentiation are important for the various reasons. First, self-renewal is necessary because if the stem cells cannot make a copy of themselves, their supply may quickly run out. It is the key for the body to preserve a pool of stems to use throughout life. And second, differentiation is essential because specialized cells are used up, damaged, or die continually during our lifetime. Stem cells can give rise to specialized cells, and this specialized cell cannot make copies of themselves once worn out. However, they can make replace in the body through stem cells to still carry out its functions. Let's get familiarized about stem cells jargons. First is we have potency. Refers to the number of possible fates that a cell could acquire. Pluripotent, all fates, or zygote. Multipotent or pluripotent means many fates but not all fates. And lastly, bipotent or unipotent, one or more fates. There are also terminologies such as pluripotent and multipotent are used by the scientists to aid them in describing the stem cells. Some stem cells can make more kinds of specialized cells than the other. Though all stem cells can both self-renew and differentiate, the term pluripotent means that the cell can differentiate in all types of specialized cells in the body, plus cells that are necessary during development of the embryo only, such as placenta, yolk sac, umbilical cord. Unipotent is used to describe the cells that can only differentiate into one type of specialized cell. Spermatogonial stem cells found in the testicle, for example, are unipotent because they can only form the spermatozoa. Now let's proceed to the different types of stem cells. Stem cells are classified as follows. Now let's proceed to the different types of stem cells. First is we have the embryonic stem cells, or also known as the ESCs. Second, adult stem cells, or also known as the ASCs. Third, we have the induced pluripotent stem cells, or iPSCs. And lastly, we have the umbilical cord stem cells. Now, let us discuss further about embryonic stem cells, or also known as the ESCs. Embryonic stem cells are obtained from the blastocyst, which is a very early stage of embryo. It is a ball of about 50 to 100 cells, and it is not yet embodied in the womb. The blastocyst consists of the inner cell mass, an outer layer of cells, and fluid-filled space. The inner cell mass is the group of cells where the ES is derived. Embryonic stem cells are promising because they are pluripotent and thus can make all the different types of cell in the body. Some are other facts about embryonic stem or stem cell. Embryonic stem cells are extracted from the frozen embryos left over in vitro fertilization, which can be stored up to 10 years or more. Second, grow out as embryonic stem cell lines, and each line has unique potency. There are some problems that are also taken into consideration in using embryonic stem cells. For ethical considerations, it is on how ESC is being obtained or harvested to get an ESC line, since it is a part of the human embryo. Second, issue is to have a non-autologous match whereby it can or it may not match the immune system of the recipient, thus resulting to graft rejection. It also have the potential to generate all the cells or the cell types in the body. Thus, in the theory, there are no restrictions on the organs that could be regenerated. Embryonic stem cells can also renew endlessly, so that a single cell line with carefully characterized traits potentially could generate almost limitless number of cells. Along with the benefits and advantages of embryonic stem cells, there are also some identified disadvantages as follows. First, difficult to culture and grow slowly. Second, cells tend to develop abnormal karyotypes and other abnormalities. Third, embryonic stem cells have the potential to form teratomas if all cells are not committed to the desired cell types before transplantation. And lastly, ethically controversial. The second type of stem cell is what we call the adult stem cells, or also known as the ASCs. Adult stem cells, or tissue stem cells, can often make several kinds of specialized cells, but they are more limited than embryonic stem cells. Adult stem cells are considered multipotent because they can become multiple types of specialized cell, but not all kinds of cell in the body. The third type of stem cell is what we call the induced pluripotent stem cells, or also known as the iPSCs. Dr. Charles A. Goldthwait, Jr. wrote his article, The Promise of Induced Pluripotent Stem Cell, that is in 2006, that there were researchers at Kyoto University in Japan who identified conditions that would have permit specialized adult cells to be reprogrammed genetically to become stem cell-like state. These adult cells, called induced pluripotent stem cell, are programmed to an embryonic stem cells-like state by introducing genes important for maintaining the essential properties of embryonic stem cells. Same as embryonic stem cells, iPSCs are pluripotent and can make all the different types of cells in the body. Turning adult cells into induced pluripotent stem cells involves adding particular genes to cells in the body to make them behave like embryonic stem cells. These genes provide these cells instructions about how to behave. This process is analogous to changing the instruction in the computer programs to make the computer do a different task. Researchers anticipate that the use of iPSCs can help treat diseases like Parkinson's or Alzheimer's in the future. Now we are down to the last type of stem cell, which is the umbilical cord stem cells. Umbilical cord stem cells can be obtained postnatally from the umbilical cord, including the umbilical cord blood cells, amnion, placenta, umbilical cord veins, or umbilical cord matrix cells. This source is readily available and inexpensive, which are multipotent and are capable of forming many different cell types. Donated cord blood that meets requirement is frozen and stored at the cord blood bank for future use, which is greater than 10 years. Overall, there are benefits and challenges to the use of embryonic adult induced pluripotent and umbilical cord stem cells used in gene therapy. Though, there are still a lot of ethical controversies regarding the source where stem cells are obtained and the techniques per se. There are persistent endeavors and researches conducted to establish the potentials of stem cells for treating diseases and prolonging life. To fully understand the lesson, let us watch this simple video clip that deals with the stem cells and its types.
The human body contains organs such as bones, the brain, heart, and reproductive organs. The basic cells that give rise to all of the different cells in these organs are called stem cells. One type of stem cell is an egg cell from a woman that has been fertilized by a sperm from a man. This single cell, called a zygote, is the first cell in a developing human being. It's also called a totipotent stem cell because it can form any type of cell in the body, as well as the umbilical cord and placenta. After a zygote has divided a few times, it becomes an early-stage embryo called a blastocyst. Embryonic stem cells come from the cells inside the blastocyst. Embryonic stem cells are pluripotent. This means they can form any cell in the body, but not the cells in the umbilical cord or placenta. In the lab, embryonic stem cells are donated from leftover embryos created during in vitro fertilization. In vitro fertilization is a procedure to help a woman become pregnant. Another type of stem cell is an adult stem cell. Small groups of these cells are found in some organs, such as the skin, after birth and into adulthood. Adult stem cells are multipotent. This means they can only become a few different cell types related to the organ where they're found. For example, the skin contains a small number of adult stem cells that can divide to create new skin adult stem cells. Or they can become more specialized skin cells to replace those that are lost due to cell aging or damage. In the lab, scientists can now induce or cause a regular body cell, such as a skin cell, to change into a pluripotent stem cell. Like embryonic stem cells, these induced pluripotent stem cells can become any type of cell in the body. Scientists study stem cells to learn how and why they become many different types of cells. In the future, these cells may be used to regrow tissues and organs that have been damaged by injury or disease. Stem cell therapy is a procedure that uses stem cells to treat a disease or condition. Currently, stem cell therapy only treats diseases and cancers of the blood. In leukemia, for example, the patient's bone marrow makes many abnormal white blood cells that can't do their job to fight infection. Over time, these abnormal cells crowd out the production of healthy white blood cells. In stem cell therapy for leukemia, called hematopoietic stem cell transplantation, a doctor will take a sample of blood or bone marrow from the patient or a donor. In some cases, donor blood may come from a baby's umbilical cord after it's born. These tissue samples contain healthy hematopoietic or blood-forming stem cells. Then, doctors will give the patient chemotherapy drugs or use radiation to kill the abnormal white blood cells and their stem cells. Once the abnormal cells are gone, the doctor will transplant the healthy hematopoietic stem cells from the tissue samples into the patient. These healthy stem cells will make new blood cells, including normal white blood cells, which will allow the body to fight off infections.
And this is the end of our discussion, but let me leave you with this quotation. The generative medicine revolution is upon us, like iron and steel to the industrial revolution, like the microchip to the tech revolution. Stem cells will be the driving force to the next revolution. And these are the references that I made use for this topic. Thank you for learning with me today, but please don't forget to click the like button and subscribe. See you on my next discussion. Goodbye!